Morning, Raptor Freak. Alexey Ots here. Sunday morning. So that means it's time for a Sunday special report. And I wasn't even sure what I was going to do this week until last night. It hit me what I should talk about today because it is more and more evident in this playoffs that are going on right now in the Eastern and Western Conference finals right now. We are seeing a real discrepancy in the treatment of players by the referees. Now, last night was a very interesting game in Boston, Miami versus Boston. Miami jumped all over Boston, were beating their ass real good in the first half. And in the third quarter, the Boston Celtics came back and they started making up some of that closeness and they got real close. But in the end, Miami ended up winning. And kudos to Kyle Lowry for being a big part of making sure Miami won last night. He returned finally after missing the first two games of the Eastern Conference Finals. Kyle Lowry came in and he helped lead the Miami Heat to their win last night. He got a steal in the last couple seconds of the game that ensured the win, passed the ball to one of his players, and they got a layup, and that was that. The dreams were crushed of the whole entire Boston Celtics arena, and all the Celtics fans started heading for the exit. Yeah, Tom Duke saying, good morning, Tom Duke. He's saying, good for Kalo. I know. It's so nice to see him playing in very important basketball right now at the end of May and not hurt at this point. But it seems like everybody else in the NBA is hurt right now. And some of the injuries last night were scary. Like that Marcus Smart ankle roll was looking bad. Jason Tatum got hurt in the game. Jimmy Butler got hurt, and he did not play most of the game. So this is what I'm saying, y'all. They need to stop talking about how people get hurt in series and people win championships like this. This has always been the case throughout the history of the NBA. This has always been a case where a big player may get hurt and it changes the outcome of a series. The NBA is a long grind and players need to be ready to play. And if they're not able to play for whatever reason, then so be it. That's just part of the factors. In fact, you could just put that in on a player's profile. They get this many rebounds, they get this many assists, but they get injured this often. And I'm going to say it right now. Part of the difference between the NBA now and the NBA back then is the players are softer. As soon as they feel like they might be any kind of hurt, they go and they take themselves out or do that kind of stuff. Now, this is a different level right now because honestly, the thing they did with Marcus Smart last night, they were trying to recreate a Willis Reed kind of moment where the man came out of the back because he went to the back and it looked really bad. And everybody's thinking, oh, he's not going to come back. And then he comes back and everybody in the arena goes crazy. And then hopefully their team wins and comes back and because they're inspired by his return. Nope, none of that last night. And it was hilarious. I was like, why is he coming back? The man rolled his ankle bad. And some of the x-rays this morning look real bad. Like he really hurt himself. So Boston's in big trouble. And the other thing is later on, Tatum did the same damn thing. He messed up his knee. Kyle Lowry fell on it with his big butt, and he had to go to the back. And he tried to come back and do the whole same damn thing as Marcus Smart. But you know what? He didn't have any of the same kind of effect because honestly, Jason Tatum got tied up real good last night and wasn't able to do jack shit. PJ Tucker was a nightmare for him. And that is a big, big factor in it. Like Jason Tatum did not look like the best Celtic out there. Jaylen Brown was carrying that team. He was being the best Celtic in the game along with Marcus Smart to a degree. And very interesting stuff. But the thing I want to talk about today in the special report is a referee issue. And this is something that is built by the NBA in anointing golden boys. I've talked about this all season, that the NBA media machine likes to have stars to push, just like Larry and Magic in the 80s, Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, Shaquille. There's been so many different names throughout the history of the NBA that they love to have as marquee superstars. And when you get to that level, sometimes there's a little bit of a difference in treatment by NBA officials. And in the last two games I watched in the NBA playoffs, we've seen it on full display right now. That we see top names like Draymond Green cussing and yelling at the referees and them holding their whistle to not give him a second technical to put him out of the game in the first half of the game on Friday against Dallas, Golden State. that Draymond did so much in that first half to get himself thrown out that if he had been a non-name player, that if he had been just an average bench guy or even an average starter or on a certain team like the Raptors, they would have tossed his ass out. But because he has special privilege as a superstar, an anointed golden boy by the league, they let it go. And you know what? He really pushed it to the hilt. He knew that the referees on Friday night couldn't do jack shit to him. And you know what? He really pushed it and they made it look really bad. Because, like, look, this is what's happening, NBA. We can see your referees, and I'm Raptor fan. I don't have a whole real horse in this race as far as Golden State and Dallas. I can see how you're treating Draymond differently than other players in that game. And that, you know, you may pick Luka one night and treat him very extra special one night, but it's always a superstar. And in your system of anointing superstars, it's through awards and stuff like that. Like, I'm really happy that Scotty Barnes won Rookie of the Year because in some ways he is set up on a path to be able to get Golden Boy treatment. In fact, at the end of the season, we did kind of see him get a little bit of Golden Boy treatment already. And I was very happy to see this. That if we can have a player on our team, because Pascal doesn't get Golden Boy treatment. I'm going to tell you right now, Pascal Siakam, even though he should probably get Golden Boy treatment, does not get Golden Boy treatment. But Scotty Barnes will. Watch. And we're going to see it. It's going to be a different kind of thing. Now, you see how they anoint people like Jason Tatum. They anoint, Kyle Lowry. They even anointed him at a certain point. Now that he's on Miami to a degree. But this is the thing. They're not even with how they call things. And one of the things that happened last night that made me realize this was a technical on Gabe Vincent in the second half. That Gabe Vincent hardly put up an argument or cried or complained barely just about an offensive foul, and boom, it's a hair trigger. It's like they're throwing a technical at him like that. And when they did that, Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, who were announcing the game, both said that referees need to get more right with their technicals. And basically they're saying is that, like, look, there's some players on the court they're getting away with murder as far as saying what they want to say. Maybe it's physicality like Joel Embiid against the Raptors. Maybe it's ugly plays like LeBron James slinging a ball at Scotty Barnes' midsection. These guys are looking the other fucking way. It's almost like a cop who's saying, I see this white guy over here doing something. I'm just going to look the other way. But if I see somebody else doing it, then I'm going to come down on them. Is what I'm saying. So there's a lot of superstars getting free reign to act poorly on the court, whether it's with over-intended and almost dangerous physicality, whether it's with what they say and how much they can get away with saying towards them. Meanwhile, you have somebody like Gabe Vincent. Who's Gabe Vincent? He's a borderline starter for the Miami Heat. Not really. He's a bench player. And he says one little peep and boom, technical. It's like right on him. And it's bad when the announcers like Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy are calling them out immediately about it. That, this is the thing. They want to keep the secret in-house. They want to keep the whole thing as part of the show in-house and not point stuff out like that. But if it's that egregious and that bad, and they're saying it, that the referees need to be more consistent with how they call technicals and on who and for what. Because one guy can do something on the court and they will not get a technical, and another guy just breathes or taps his arm, he's getting a technical. There is no consistency to it, and that's a big problem. Tom Duke's saying Scott Foster has been running the league for 25 years. He is also the number one most disliked ref by the players. Wonder if he is the most liked by superstars. I don't know. The thing, Scott Foster's been a topic a lot recently in circles that I have been in. And one of the things we've decided is that, yes, he is one of the most hated refs by the players. But in some ways, I've seen a statistic recently that says that he's one of the most accurate refs in the league. That part of the reason why Scott Foster is so hated is that he won't follow the superstars. That we see how he acts with Chris Paul. And then also, like, if he's in an arena like Boston, where the way it was last night with the rabid fans super loud, he won't listen to the crowd either. He won't take the pressure from the fans to make the calls in their favor. So in some ways, they're saying that Scott Foster is actually the most accurate, fair ref in the league. And that really my problems with Scott Foster have been his possible linkage to Tim Donaghy and the betting scandal. Because apparently in the story, and this may come out in the Netflix series is coming out about Donaghy, that one of the phone calls Tim Donaghy was making was to Scott Foster about the betting. That there is clear evidence of linking him into the problems with Tim Donaghy and the betting scandal. So that's really my main problem with Scott Foster. I don't have a problem with him really because of things he's done to the Raptors. It's really been more his notoriety, his reputation, and the stuff with Chris Paul and stuff like that. But I have seen him in games call it fairly in very high pressurized situations that have been tough to make that call. Maybe because the crowd will hate him, maybe because he's not playing by the superstar rules that I'm talking about today. So maybe in some way, Scott Foster is part of the solution. That, you know, if more referees could be like Scott Foster and not kowtow to the fans and not kowtow to the superstars, that would be better. But we know the whole reason why they treat the superstars the way they do is because of money. Is because they have to have LeBron in the game. They can't double technical LeBron out in the first half because then people turn off the TV. People walk out of the arena and leave, you know, because he is partly the moneymaker. So there's a weird balance of like treating superstars with superstar calls to keep them in the game, but also being fair to all of the players on the court and treating them equally. And that's what I'm saying. It's very apparent at this point, NBA, you have a tiered system of how you referee. That you referee a certain level of superstar, all-star players that you have picked to be your marketing people. And then there's everybody else. And then some ways, sometimes it's by team too. Like last night, the free throw discrepancy between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics is disgusting once again. And I'm going to tell you right now, Miami won anyway. It didn't fucking matter if the referees put the Boston Celtics on the line so much. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I know Miami was playing a super scrappy defense and a very aggressive defense. But still, when you have that kind of discrepancy where it's twice, almost 3 times more free throws than the other team, it was like 9-27, y'all, last night. That's right around where it was. 9 free throws for the Heat in the entire game, 27 free throws for the Boston Celtics. And you know what that is? That is superstar treatment of a team instead of just an individual superstar. That the Celtics are getting help from the NBA because they want them in the finals. They want them. This is why I will discount every single thing the Celtics do, is because they get help. They directly get help from the league, from the referees, from the schedule makers, from every single kind of aspect. You can fucking make an edge for the Celtics in the NBA. They do it. And that's why I discount them. Like people discount the Raptors the other way for this reason or that reason. Well, you know what? You motherfuckers get your hands held to a lot of the shit that you get, Boston Celtics fans. And don't even get it twisted. You know this is true. And then last night, you know, Miami, thank God you overcame all that bullshit. And you even did it without your heart and soul, Jimmy Butler. That is super impressive. And listen, some of these injuries from last night are not going away in time for next game. These guys are all hurt, a lot of them. Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, they're all hurt. Robert Williams III, they're all hurt. And that's why this is a war of attrition. That's why I don't want to hear any Celtics fans after Miami beat your ass say, well, if Jason Tatum's knee hadn't been hurt or Smart. Well, motherfucker, Jimmy Butler and those other guys on the other side have been hurt also. And I say that about the Philadelphia series with Toronto. I'll say that about a lot of the series in this. Injuries are just a major part of the game at this point. And that they can really swing what's happening. So no more asterisks, no more excuses. You show up with who you have and you try to win. Because you did that all regular season. Players miss games, and you try to win with who you had. Boston, you came to Toronto, and you didn't have any of your superstars this regular season, and you put in a good effort and just barely lost to us in overtime. You put in the effort with who you have. And you don't make excuses afterwards. I know all y'all were saying, well, we didn't have Brown, we didn't have Tatum. Well, you know what? You were still tough to beat, and we'll take that overtime win. So it's stuff like this NBA, you anoint these golden boys, and I love that you've anointed Scotty Barnes as a rookie of the year this year as a golden boy going forward. We need to see him get that treatment. If you're going to do it to other teams and give golden boys on other teams good treatment, Scotty's going to need to get it also. And this crazy because you can have a player who's been in the league like 6 years, like Pascal Siakam, who's obviously all NBA. He's going to be all NBA third team coming up this week. He'll probably get announced for that. And he doesn't get any respect with the calls and things like that. So it can be a different kind of combination of things. The superstar golden boy anointment by the league, and then which team you're on. If you're on a specific team, you may get upgraded even though you're a bench player, like Matisse Thybulle, or like, somebody off the bench for the Celtics. They get an extra special treatment, like Grant Williams. He's an ordinary, average NBA player, but because he's on the Celtics, he may get more golden boy treatment than somebody like OG Anunoby. It's stuff like that I'm saying. And another thing that's factored into this is like, all right, the defensive stuff. Now, a player like Marcus Smart last night can get away with so much more physicality, so much more flopping. He gets like these incredible offensive charge calls sometimes, or like that dude is still moving. If that was any other player in the league, and because he has a reputation, he gets the call. But other players in the rest of the league wouldn't get those calls because he's moving. He's not taking a charge. He's actually moving while he's doing it, and they're giving him the call because of his reputation. And part of it is what's built by the NBA and the way they give the awards out. And this is a problem with the all defensive NBA team that was announced on Friday, is that if you continually reward and give defensive, defensive team to certain players, they get that card, just like I'm talking about, to be more aggressive on defense and do things on the defensive end. Well, if you don't give the Raptors any cards over the last 10 years, what the fuck? We continually have to get foul calls called on us on the defensive end that we probably shouldn't be getting because we earn the same shit that the Celtics are doing, and they get the right to do it because of that. That's why I have a problem with none of the Raptors being on all defensive second team. Because listen, we've been one of the best defensive teams in the league in the last 5 years if you take Tampa out. And this is not right, that we are not getting the cred built into our players like Marcus Smart and Robert Williams III and Matisse Thybulle get. That these guys get a little bit of a carrying card on the court to be more aggressive and be more physical on the court and get more calls in their favor, partly because of awards that they win. So Tom Duke saying, do you think reffing has always been this way, or is it new and getting more egregious? Like old stars like Larry Bird get calls, for example. Yes, it's been this way to a degree, but it wasn't always this way. Like, I don't know. I can't really tell you exactly how it was in the 60s. I already know that the Celtics were running all kinds of rackets. They were gaming the system any kind of way that they could get an advantage. And that's part of the reason why they won every single championship in the 60s except for one. They won 9 out of the 10 years of the championships in the whole decade of the 60s. Is really Red Auerbach gaming things as much as possible around him. So in a way, he was kind of setting up the baby system of having this kind of influence for his team and stuff like that. But as the years went on, in the 80s is probably where it really started. And that's probably because, all right, the NBA, you see at the beginning win time was in trouble. It had an image problem of being a bunch of cocaine heads that fight on the court, and people weren't interested in it. It was losing money. And that they made superstars out of Magic and Larry. And they brought the game into a whole other mainstream level that was very profitable and became more and more the game that it is today. You throw in Michael Jordan and then boom, that's what they said. They had Jordan rules. They had rules for how you could referee Jordan and give him a little bit of favor to help him. Like the foul stuff's really important. You don't want Jordan in foul trouble because if he's in foul trouble, they bench him and he's not in the game. And that is not good for the almighty dollar. So that's the thing. It's really built on making sure the superstar players are visually there and that they protect them from being taken off the court because it's bad for money in some ways and stuff like that. So they were superstar treatment for players in the 80s, but not as bad. And then in the 90s, it got a little more worse with Michael Jordan himself. Like Jordan had a whole other set of rules with the referees than anybody else. And then what happened in the 2000s, Iverson came along, Kobe, and these guys continue to do it. But they were, it wasn't so bad. And in some ways, other superstars around them came up, were starting to get the treatment, and they were softer and they were less physical, and they relied more on the help of the refs in getting favorable treatment to improve their game. And it evolved into a game like James Harden's. It evolved into a game like Trae Young's, where they were initiating contact to get that preferential treatment to build their game off of. And they didn't like that. And that's why they changed the offensive foul rules from last year. No kicking out, none of this, because these superstars were figuring out how to game the system of the superstar treatment by referees. And that's part of it right there. But no, it's always kind of been something probably since the beginning. Like George Mikan, I don't know, maybe he got some superstar calls because he was already like a two-time NBA champion or something like that at a certain point. And they're like, well, it's George Mikan. We know he's our star in our league. We can't foul him out. We have to keep him out there. So that's really the mechanism of it all. The NBA wants marquee superstars to market and get people interested and tune into games, but then they also want them in the games. And if they're going to be in trouble to get thrown out of the game or foul out of the game or any kind of thing, they will protect them. And that is the whole problem with things right now. All right, let's see what's going on. Raymond Jacobs saying Raps just need more Canadian refs in the league. I'm sure they would call fair games. There is one referee that is Canadian, and he's very nice to the Raptors. But I don't think that that's actually the issue. I think that the refs, if they seriously take their job seriously, first of all, they need to absolutely kill the Donaghy stuff. They need to make sure that there's anybody who's linked to Donaghy, even if it's Scott Foster, their most accurate ref, they need to can them. And then second, they need to really start realizing that the fans today are smarter than ever. That because of social media, because of the ability to cut and paste clips and little things, they can really become the person that is studying the shooter on the grassy knoll with JFK as far as with basketball plays. They can get every single angle. They can go back and look, and they can really, really meticulously see what referees are correct or not. And that's the thing they've got to realize. You are under a microscope, a telescope, and every kind of scope that ever can be involved at this point, NBA refs. And that means you really need to be down the line and really call it right. And so today I'm calling you out on superstar preferential treatment. That if you're going to let other players have cards to just go wild and cuss and act like a fool and possibly hurt players with dangerous plays, but you're going to go and have a hair trigger, a really low tolerance thing for most of the players in the league, the average player in the league, that's fucked up. And we can all see it. It's unfair. And this is part of why we feel like y'all manipulate the outcomes of the game, is because you help individual players and then you help whole franchises, like the Boston Celtics and the Lakers. And we see what y'all are doing, and we'll call you out on it. And if you want to look like you're more fair, then do it more fairly. That's what I'm saying. All right, let's see. Raymond Jacobs saying, imagine the Raps in the finals, and it's all Canadian ref team. Raymond Jacob, you're hilarious. Listen, I'm rallying against help from like things like this. I don't want Canadian refs to come into this league and give us favoritism. I want it down the line. I want it fair for everybody. We've been a team that's been shafted by the refs in different ways for years now, and it's gotten better. But I want it to be very equal. I don't want to have any kind of feeling that the refs are helping the Celtics when we play them. And I know that a lot of teams, when they play the Celtics, they have this feeling. So there's something wrong with this. And that's the other reason why I was like, everything the Celtics do is inflated by the push, the help, pushing them up by the league itself. And I will discount everything they fucking do. I'm sorry. You get help from the league, Boston. You really do. And stuff like that. All right. I don't know how much more I want to talk about today. If you guys have any daily content or things you want to talk about today, Raymond Jacobs saying the refs will be replaced by AI one day. By Allen Iverson? No, just kidding. No, I think that would be good in some ways, because in some ways that is really on the up and up. It's like, listen, humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. We have our own, things that we are predicated or we have our own discriminatory ideas and like preferences and things like that. Even on the down low, on a subliminal level, we can have that. There may be referees that are like, I don't really hate anybody in the league, but they on the down low, subconsciously, they may hate someone. They don't even realize it. So if you put it in a computer with an algorithm and a certain protocol and the way that they see everything down the line with both teams, then that is way to ensure fairness in how they do things and stuff like that. So Tom Duke's saying, I'm never going to change the way I play basketball, Green said the day after his ejection. Listen, the Draymond Green thing is actually the big thing that I'm talking about here. That Draymond is already a part of their studio broadcast with Charles and Shaq and Ernie Johnson when he's off. And that just is a weird collusive kind of connection to me. That the NBA is already investing in his personality for his future in the broadcast booth with them, that they're going to protect him and build his myth, build his legend. And I really feel like on Friday night in that game, in this first quarter, he should have been thrown out of the game. That his behavior and the way he was acting and look, he made the refs look bad. Like he stood up to them and talked them down, and then they continued to let him do that. They did not come on down on him. He never got thrown out. He fouled out at the end, but they never actually got in his face. He bullied them after he realized he could do whatever he wanted to them. And that's a horrible look, NBA. When you see one player able to do that to the refs, meanwhile, they're so clamping down on anybody else doing anything. It's really, really bad. Tom Duke's laughing at Raymond's statement about the AR. Let's see. Okay, wait. I gotta see. You guys went ahead a little bit. I gotta see this. All right, Rank Scrubs here. Good to see Rank Scrub once again. Refs do this to the lowest levels. Game management exists to push good teams to overperform and play squared up. They really started giving games to help Lakers beat the Kings. Yeah. That's that one series with Chris Webber and that team against Shaq and Kobe. That was a really egregious, like handing the series to the Lakers over the Kings. And it was so bad that everybody could see it. In fact, you can go find old tape of those games. You can see just how badly if they don't cover up very well, how much you can see they are really helping one side or not and stuff like that. It's really like they're very good at manipulating things in the game with little things. This whole season, I've had that whole segment called Ref Manipulation after games, where I try to point out the different specific techniques that refs use to try and make little subtle manipulations in the game. Whether it's being something like as little as something like if a player is shooting a free throw and the ref is underneath the basket and they're going to pass the ball, they have to give the ball to the player to shoot the free throw. Before the player even releases their shot, sometimes a referee will walk right into the middle of the lane, and it can mess up a free throw shot for a player. It's stuff like that. Or holding the ball when they're trying to inbounds the ball, they're holding it for a sec and they're watching and they're letting the other team get back and set up in their defense instead of allowing a Showtime Lakers kind of fast break where they give the ball real quick to the player who's trying to inbounds it. Sometimes they'll hold it for 5-10 seconds. And that is really a subtle way of manipulating the flow and pace of the game for one of the teams and not allowing them to get on the break because you're allowing the other team's defense to get back and get set up and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of weird little manipulative things they do. But specifically, we're talking today about superstar treatment and preferential treatment because it's right on display in these playoffs that are getting played in the last couple of days. It's like, Marcus Smart could get away with so much last night. Meanwhile, Gabe Vincent, he throws his hands up and he says, whoa, he technical. And he didn't really hardly do anything. And as I said, if Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy are calling the refs out for it in the announcing booth, then I know it is like they're not looking past it or they're trying to poo-poo it or go around it. They're calling them out for it. I really actually enjoyed Jeff Van Gundy's call last night because he was very fair and he was talking about a lot of the stuff I talk about on this channel as far as what's fair and what isn't. And at one point, Jeff derided the game for having too many stoppages of play. There were too many different things, whether it's a challenge, whether it's like reviewing a play for it being flagrant, whether it's just like injury timeout. There was way too much stoppage in the game. And Jeff Van Gundy also got down on them for the whole fouling to stop the fast break. That the game has changed because people are just being dangerous, hitting people when they're getting open layups. Like there was one play with the Heat where they got hit out of the air. I think it was Oladipo or something like that. It was very dangerous. And Jeff Van Gundy is saying that's just ruining fast breaks in the game when somebody comes up behind them and pushes them when they're going up to make a layup or a dunk, and that is dangerous, and also it's ruining the game and the pace and the highlights and the things like that. So I really love Jeff Van Gundy and what he was saying last night. I thought that he's right on like the topic and really understanding and putting it out there, and I love that he's doing that on the NBA's own like major broadcast for it. So it's really good. Raymond Jacobs saying Green has a separate bank account to handle all his technicals. I believe that's true. I mean, in some ways, they want to build that myth, but it's kind of like, all right, we'll give him all these technicals, maybe throw him out in some of the games of the regular season, but when it really counts, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And that was evident on Friday night. He really, like, he was pissing me off. It was like they would have thrown out any other player in this league, most other players, but for half of the shit that he was doing, not even like maybe a quarter of it sometimes. So yeah, it's really crazy. Summer Low's here. Good to see Summer Low just got here. What are we talking about? I hate the refs. Well, Summer, today I'm talking about how in the last couple of games of the conference finals, we've really had it on display how the referees give preferential treatment to superstar level players and not to general average NBA players. And that the moment that made me inspired to do this special report today was last night's game, Gabe Vincent getting that technical in the second half for barely doing anything. Meanwhile, Marcus Smart and Draymond Green can go kill someone on the court and they don't get in any trouble. So it's like they anoint these defensive geniuses in the league, and then they give them a card to club and mug people on the court. And I'm sick of it because it's insidious in this way, Summer. Because when you think about it, these people get these cards by getting Defensive Player of the Year awards, all defensive team awards that, oh, they're a good defender. That's why they can go in and mug someone and take the ball from them. Meanwhile, somebody like OG Anunoby, who's a good defender, also goes and does that because he doesn't have any all NBA defensive recognition. He does not get the same card as Marcus Smart and Draymond Green do on the defensive end, to be aggressive, to be physical, to do things to other players. That's what I'm griping about today. And that all the NBA defensive teams nominations are in a way anointing people the license to act that aggressively on the defensive end. And that if you don't give any of those awards to the Raptors, we don't get any of that clout. We don't get that ability to be that physical and aggressive, even though maybe we have earned it. And that's the thing I'm talking about today for there. That's it in a gist. Rank Scrub saying going full Van Gundy. Yeah, I love him more than Stan. Stan is a little bit like Jack Armstrong's favorite porn star. He's a little bit looking like that guy. He's like a Ron Jeremy Wish version, Stan Van Gundy. But Jeff Van Gundy is awesome. And like, listen, I'm listening to him last night and I'm understanding this is a man who was involved with Pat Riley. This is a man who was involved with the Miami Heat. And this is someone who is a little bit biased against the Celtics, but still it didn't bother me. And he was a little bit pro Heat last night, which I'm okay with because there's so many people that are pro Celtics around the place too. So Lolita's saying that Raymond Jacob, that will be so good, but not going to happen. Some of the refs should be invested and not allowed to call the game. You're talking about the Canadian ref thing that he was saying? It's such a silly idea. They'll never give us that many refs. It's not even that important. Honestly, I just want them to be more international. I want them to be more, male and female. I want them to be more like like different ages, more people of color, different kinds of people of color. Like, even though Evan, what's his name? The kid who really pissed us off. I'm really glad to see more Asian referees. I think that that's important. That we have faces that represent everybody all around, and that less old white guys as refs is always good. So in the future, I want to see more representation in the refereeing crew, and if there's more Canadians because of that, hey, that's cool, and nothing wrong with that. But less New Jersey, Philadelphia white male refs in the league, that would be better. And stuff like that. And sometimes it's really good to have former player refs like Haywood Workman and Leon Wood, that these guys really kind of like understand the side as a player. Like last night, there was a point where the big ref, I forget what his name is. I always want to call him Bernie Casey, but it's like something like that. It's Casey something. It's the big ref who used to play basketball. That there was a scrum, and they were like, don't go over there, James Capers. You don't want to be the one to break it up. Get your big fellow friend to come over and break it up, because he was a bigger ref, because he actually played in he got drafted into the NBA. I don't know if he actually made the team with the Rockets, but he's a big dude, and he's like was the biggest ref on the court last night. Let's see. Raymond saying at Lolita, can you imagine Marcus Smart or Draymond arguing with the AI refs? That's another thing. It would cut out a lot of that stupid shit, like with them going crazy. It's like, it's the computer. They just told you can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. It will maybe it'll take some of the drama out of things or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they won't like it because they want that kind of drama and conflict of not having it totally clear with the call. That if you have an AI calling it right down the middle and it's very accurate, then that might take away some of the theatrics and the fun, like the players going, like crazy or something like that. I don't know. Lolita saying, I mean, investigated. Some of the refs should be investigated, not allowed to call the game. Yeah, well, they protect their own. When the Donaghy scandal happened, they used him as a patsy. They used him as a scapegoat, and they said this is the only guy doing this because he fucked up and he blew their cover. He's not the only one who was doing this. In fact, it was probably more common than not common in NBA refs in certain ways. Like, I'm going to say that right now. They're going to say, oh, there was only one bad apple in the bunch. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, there were at least half dozen. There were at least 6 refs doing what Tim Donaghy was doing, and that they wanted to poo-poo it and close it up real fast. So they take a head and say it was all him and make him go away. And then they don't want anybody else digging any deeper. Is basically the kind of thing that happened. They won't do the investigation themselves. In fact, in the Whistleblower podcast, they talk about how the FBI was being asked to investigate it and how they were kind of like not really going full into it, because partly because NBA Commissioner David Stern is like a mafia boss. And he basically was like, yeah, don't come fuck with us. We're making money. You're going to fuck up the NBA if you blow the cover on what's happened with this and really mess this league up. So David Stern, who's like a Don, like a mafia boss, a Don Corleone, came and he protected the league by destroying Tim Donaghy and saying it was all him. And you're right. They should be more investigated. They acted like they investigated him, but they didn't do shit. They acted like it, and they probably found shit, but they didn't want it to come see the light of day because it was probably a lot worse than just Tim Donaghy. And David Stern he's a lawyer. That's his first job other than NBA commissioner. He's saying, you know what? We will fucking sue the shit out of you for this and this and this because you can't ultimately really prove this. And we will give you Donaghy at least, that kind of thing. Because I was kind of thinking about that. It was like, they didn't go any further with it. Even at the time, they're like, well, this seems like they need to make more of an investigation into this. But this has probably happened in other sports too. It's like the NBA doesn't want to be singled out and treated this way. If it's happening in the NFL, it's happening in baseball in some way. If it's happening in, there's people cheating in most of the leagues in different ways. Whether it's baseball, signal stealing, whatever, there's stuff going on. There's, Deflategate in football world. There's all kinds of different scandals that happen on the down low in sports because teams want to gain edges any which way they can. That's the Celtics line of thinking. And that's the way that they've been built. And that is their culture, is that kind of cheating shit. So it's part of that. All right, let's see. Summer's saying, yeah, it's always so inconsistent. It's inconsistent by player to player. Gabe Vincent gets this treatment. Marcus Smart gets this treatment. And, as a whole, the teams get different treatment. You look at how many free throws the Heat shot last night compared to the Celtics. And don't tell me that the NBA was trying to help the Boston Celtics win on their home court in the Eastern Conference Finals last night. Don't tell me that they weren't. And that Miami is that good, that they had to beat an 8-person team last night to a degree and stuff like that. And some people will say, oh my gosh, you're crazy. And say, well, listen, Boston played shitty. That if they had shot better and played better, if Jason Tatum had looked better last night, they may have easily won this game because the referees were putting it on a platter for them to take. And that it took that much more grit and grime and determination by the Miami Heat to overcome all that and stuff like that. So Lolita's saying NBA should have awards for refs, best and worst. No, they don't want to do that. I mean, maybe they could champion the referee that gets the best accuracy rating for the whole year. And that may be a good thing, NBA, you might want to consider. Like, go ahead and go public and say Scott Foster has the best percentage of getting the right calls. And maybe that will help the perception with the league, because then people will say, oh, well, Scott Foster is a really good ref because look at how many calls he gets right percentage wise. And, that's the thing. One of the things the NBA wants is not for us to know the NBA refs. Like somebody said it this week. It's like the best thing about best refs are the ones you don't know their names. Like if you don't know their name, then that means they're a good ref. And then when more personality refs like Tony Brothers and people like Scott Foster, that they get notoriety that's not good. That they want their refs to be anonymous. So giving awards to them in the first place is probably not a good idea, because that's part of the reason why they get these referees that have very common names like James Williams. They want guys that you could forget their name and like, oh, who is that? Which ref is that? I don't remember him. But certain refs you do always remember because they're just that kind of personality and stuff like that. Scott Foster and stuff like that. But yeah, I like the idea of giving the best referee. But if you give the worst referee award to a rep, they're going to probably need to be fired, or the whole perception of them by the fans and NBA players is going to be worse for them. That would be really bad for them because they'd have a mark on them and people wouldn't respect them as much because they were called out as the worst ref in the league. But the best ref award, I could see where that could work. Call it the Earl Strom Award for a best referee and something like that. I don't know, NBA. Some are saying, what are we looking at on the bottom right of the screen? Bottom right, over there? That thing is just napkins. There's just like napkins. I'm sitting at a dining room table, and this table behind me is kind of got like it's got some Tums. There's some Tums here. It looks like we've got a fake flower. Here's some books, children's books, something good. I don't know. I'm at my girlfriend's house. I just find interesting places to shoot from here and that stuff. But yeah, this is a mask, and these are some towels for your table, napkins, stuff like that. So, all right, let's see. Great question, Summer. That's a little off the wall. It's a little cool. Tom Dick saying, what qualifications, ongoing training are there for these guys? Do they get new contracts each year? I think that they're part of a union, Tom, and that part of it is that once they're in, they're really in. It's kind of like a TTC operator. A TTC is our transit here in Toronto. Once you get in, you get past your probationary period, you can be TTC driver for the rest of your professional career, and the union will fight for you to keep your job. And that may be part of the problem, is that some of the referees could be real problems, but they're made men, that they are ensconced in. It's almost like having a tenure as a professor. That once you get through that probationary period, if you don't get fired or kicked out or something like that, you can stick around and be around way longer than you need to be. So it's all union protection and stuff like that. But the qualifications and the training for them, Tom, is basically they have to ref at lower levels. Like a lot of the refs refed in the CBA, the G League. A lot of them refed in college basketball. A lot of them refed in they even refed at the lower levels like high school. All kinds of different levels, and they start at a certain level. And the other thing is there's a lot of nepotism in the refereeing. It's like fathers who refed, their sons have a higher chance of getting into the NBA and refereeing, because it's part of it is it's kind of like with wrestlers. If you grew up in the business and you see the people around you, then you get to know them ahead of time. Like, you may be a kid and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm a ref because my dad was a ref. He laid out the path for me. He has friends that are looking out for me. And it may be that it was in my blood and I go and do the refereeing in the high school level. I do it in the college level, but I have a quicker route to the NBA than the average person would that had to fight and get there somewhere. Because sometimes it's different what age the ref becomes an NBA ref. Like some of the refs don't become NBA refs until their 30s. And then some of the refs become NBA refs in their late 20s. And their paths aren't all the same. Like they come from different ways to it and stuff. But usually the refs have really good high accuracy marks at each level. And that they're the creme de la creme getting bumped up from all right, you're a high school ref, you're this good. All right, go ref college for a while. Boom. Ref college for a little while. You're that good. Boom. Go ref the G League. You're ref in the G League for 2 years. You do a good job. You're already in the NBA because you're in the G League now. Boom, we're bringing you from the G League into the NBA. Because the G League really is the step into the NBA. Like, you have to be a G League ref at this point before you can become an NBA ref. You don't just come straight in the NBA anymore. You're all the new refs are getting developed at the G League level, just like G League players are getting developed and stuff like that. So let's see. All right, let's see. Raymond Jacobs saying, do the refs like Nick Nurse? From my perception, I think that they do. I think that they respect him. I think that he has a good demeanor with them. He's fiery and he fights for what he believes in, but I think that he has a way of talking to them where they don't seem to get too agitated or angry with him. That's the whole thing. Do you ever see a ref get that mad at Nick Nurse, even though he's completely mad at them, maybe saying something to them? They're more calm and they're just saying, okay, Nick, we understand. We'll look out for it on the next play, kind of thing, instead of being like matching his energy, because he will get crazy. And of course, he's gotten thrown out of a couple games this past year, but those were really warranted. And like he uses it as a strategic time when he gets thrown out. It's not that he's fucked up and he got thrown out because he didn't want to. Every time Nick Nurse gets tossed out of a game, it's very much on purpose that he wants to get tossed out. It may be to light the fire under the Raptors' ass to play better, or it may be that he wants to get that one in with the refs right before he leaves to really shape their minds about how they're going to ref the rest of the game, even though he's gone. So I think in general, they respect him. I think that they like him to a degree because he probably has a good conversation with them and it's very knowledgeable, and he probably is the kind of coach that referees can't pull one on over, so they have to respect them to a certain degree. It's like, all right, Nick, yeah, I understand, yeah, what, next time we come down the court, if that happens again, we'll give you the foul in the same situation, shit like that is what they're doing, because there's a lot of politicking. Summerlow's saying, nah, about the bottom right, there's a picture of you with someone, and if you click on it, it's to subscribe. Oh, that picture in the corner, that's my watermark picture. That is me with the Larry O.B. Summer. That is me with Larry O'Brien, the trophy. I went to an event the year we won the championship on 4/20. This is, April the 20th. It's an important day for me. It's a holiday. But it's also, they had an event in Toronto. Where was it? It was over kind of near, it was over on the west side. They had an old warehouse and they had built it into an NBA zone, playoff zone, because they knew the Raptors were going into the playoffs, and they built like a court and they had people playing basketball. They had a little theater, a 3D theater. They had like a whole bunch of big pictures of like NBA players and different history of the NBA. And in one section, they had this part where they had these jerseys that you could get made custom, and you could only they had this special championships symbol that you could get put on your jersey only if your team had won an NBA championship. And I went over there and I said, I'd like to get this Raptors one with the championship on it. And this is before we won. And the girl said, you can't get it with the Raptors with the championship because they never won a championship. And I was like, bitch. I was like, we'll find out. And I went into the room. There's a little room and they had the real Larry O'Brien in it. And people were lined up getting pictures taken with it, with all the mirrors around. That's me getting my picture taken with Larry O.B. I did not touch it. I just went right close to it. And you can see I'm holding two fingers like for two championships. So I'm still waiting for that second finger championship to come through. But yeah, before we even won it on April the 20th, 2019, I went and met Larry and I said, I'd like you to come stay in Toronto for a year with us. And he said, yeah, because he did come to Toronto after that. And that picture was so badass to have after we won the championship, even though I had it like 2 months before we actually won. I got my picture taken with it. So I'm really happy. But that is the Larry O'Brien in the picture with me. That's not a person. That's not my girlfriend. That's hilarious. But yeah, that's the trophy. That's the big trophy we're working for. All right, let's see. Tom Duke saying, hi, I think she meets the photo. Okay, yeah, I didn't on my screen because I'm on the YouTube creator studio look and not the way you guys are watching it. I don't have my watermark in the corner. I just have the towels. That's why I thought that. That's hilarious. Yeah, Raymond Jacobs saying that looks like the Larry O.B. I guess that's his girlfriend too. Hey, if Larry O.B. wants to be one of my girlfriends or something like that, that's fine. Larry, come live in Toronto permanently. You know, if we could have 2020s be like the Celtics 60s, hey, I'm all for it. Scotty Barnes, get those championships, get one for each finger on one hand, and be like Magic. Go ahead, Scotty. We can get in that era of the dynasty with the Raptors and we get a whole bunch of them. Oh, yeah, yeah. Some are saying, oh, I think you guys are right. The photo is really small. It looks like someone with long gold hair. Yeah, it is the Larry O'Brien. I love it. I don't know how to make that bigger, but it's like, I guess it's maybe like sometimes on bigger screens, you'll be able to see it better. Maybe I don't know what you're watching it on. It could be on the phone or something. I know it's like stuff like that. It's funny. You think it looks like a girl with very long golden hair. Larry O'Brien. Oh, Tom Duke saying, yeah, that isn't right about keeping their job. Just like a driver's license, people should get reevaluated at some point. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Tom, they are getting reevaluated. They get reevaluated every single game. They're looking at their calls and they're grading them. And they're telling them how good they did and how many blown calls they had for each game, every single after game. And they are being scrutinized on a heavy level. But see, this is the thing. Some of your older refs that have been around and really know the system can game it. Like they can ref a certain way to take care of themselves as far as statistics wise, but also have some sort of influence on the game in ways that they want to personally also. Ask Scott Foster with Chris Paul. But they get ratings and they do get analyzed for that. And they do lose their jobs if they do not hit certain numbers, is what I'll say. Like if they have a percentage of calls that are incorrect, then if it's below a threshold that they've set, it's like if you have this percentage of being wrong, then you're out. They will fire them. So there is a mechanism and there is something that will get bad refs out of the system. It's just that they're playing within the rules of what they want to do, but there's a lot of leeway and weirdness, any kind of instant and situation at any second on the court, and that has to be made judgment and stuff like that. So let's see. Raymond's saying they should have a Yelp review for refs. They should. They should let the NBA players do the reviews anonymously. Like but some of them you'd be able to tell. Like you read it and you'd be like, that's fucking LeBron. You can tell that's LeBron because that's what happened in the game the other night or something like that. That's hilarious. Let's see. Tom Duke saying, I think it's Lexi holding the wrestling belt is my guess. No, that's the Larry O'Brien, y'all. That's the thing. Like this, I put that in the corner as my watermark because that's what we're going for. And I want to keep that up there every single video I do because that is the ultimate goal, is getting the next championship. And that's what it is. Yeah. Raymond's saying it has to be the Larry O.B. It has a golden head. It's totally the Larry Bryan, guys. It's the real one too, y'all. Just so y'all know, it's the real ones. Rank Scrub saying Raptors use clear lines of communication. Only Nick Nurse and Fred are allowed to argue calls with the refs after the play. Rest of the team can only ask what the ref wants to see to make a play clean. Yeah, that makes sense. That listen, Fred knows how to dance that line with the referees, and in some ways, maybe Fred is getting a little bit of preferential treatment because of his respect and who he's building himself as an NBA player. In fact, I'd love to see Fred get more Golden Boy treatment. If other players in the league are going to get Golden Boy treatment, I think Fred VanVleet deserves some of it. So, but he's really good at arguing it. Even if he's not even playing in the game, he could be in street clothes on the bench and he's up there arguing with the refs in the middle of the game. It's hilarious. But yeah, I think you're right, Ranked. I think that there is a delineation between who's allowed to say what to the referees and in what situation. One of the articles I read yesterday was very interesting is about the reviews, like calling for a player challenge or the coach's challenge. And so how many times we see the players go ooh, like this. And who was it? It was Eric Spoelstra was talking about how he doesn't necessarily trust all of his players when they ask for the challenge. Like they may do this. And he's like, well, which player is it? Because like sometimes he'll do it for the player and they're wrong. Like they were wrong and they lose the challenge. And that he kind of keeps track of which players are telling him to do the challenge and if they're trustworthy on whether they should do the challenge with them or not. Because they only want these players to ask them to do the challenge if they know for sure they didn't touch them and they know for sure that there was no foul. And I've been looking at a lot of the different stats for the challenges and how they work because I'm kind of interested in doing a report on the coach's challenge and how to do it effectively and when the best time to do it is and stuff. And that, there's certain kinds of plays that get more successful coaches challenge, like out of bounds plays and stuff like that, or like possession plays are easier to win as a coaching challenge than fouls and that kind of stuff. The referee will more likely say that the foul call is the way they called it originally than overturn it. But out of bounds play could be easily looked at and then we were wrong. It did go off the other player and that we need to overturn it. But that was very interesting stat that the calls that get overturned the most are out of bounds plays, and foul plays don't get overturned as much and stuff like that. So let's see. Summer Lowe saying Fred got screwed in game one. That was a ref hit job. Yeah, that definitely was. In game one against Philadelphia, they took Fred VanVleet out of the game immediately with two quick fouls, one right 5 seconds in the game. That was definitely a ref hit job. And that may have been premeditated and directed by league office and stuff like that, because they did want to give Philadelphia an edge and win the first game for sure. They may have been worried that Toronto, being the 5th seed with the 4th seed, even though they had home court advantage, that in a lot of ways we've handled Philadelphia really well during the regular season, and that they wanted to set us back right away and set the tone to help Philadelphia win the series. And taking our captain out of the game right at the beginning of the game and stuff like that was very effective. And then allowing Philadelphia to play with incredible physicality that we weren't allowed to match was a really big part of the manipulation also, and helping Philadelphia win the first game of the series against us. So yeah, that's totally true, Summer. That was very apparent that was directed to get Fred out early. Lolita's saying, remember when Siakam's triple doubled was taken away after review? The bad calls, the refs should be fined. Yeah, well, that was because it was a team rebound. There was one rebound where Pascal came down with it, and Chris had his hands on it also. And what they do is they could just give it to Pascal and be nice, but they're assholes. If it was a Celtic player to build their prestige, they would have allowed him to just continue to have that triple double. But they're trying to limit Pascal Siakam's triple doubles. And that's bullshit. In fact, I think Pascal should have like 10 triple doubles at this point, partly because of what I just talked about, but also because he hasn't been aggressive in going for them. He'll have a great game, like a 15.9 rebound, 10 assist game, and just be missing one rebound, but he didn't go for it. So it's really kind of a prestige thing that, like, if they want to help, they're hurting him for his prestige. They take it away, and they said it's a team rebound because Chris had his hand on the ball also. That rebound didn't go to Chris Boucher either. It just went into a category called team rebound, which is a way of nullifying a rebound from statistically counting for either player. It's like they both brought it down. So it's just a team rebound. You'll see that stat on the box score. It's TR. That's team rebound. And sometimes the rebound totals don't add up with all the players. That's because there's an extra rebound that was brought down by two players at the same time, and they call it a team rebound. And they don't give it to either one of them. It's a messed up, like, weird thing. And that was wrong when they took that away from him in that Milwaukee triple-double, for sure. Summer's saying the refs are just nuts. That Houston game, when someone bounced the ball into their own hoop, should have counted. Yeah, there's a lot of things that they don't and they do count in different weird ways. Like they counted the shot that bounced off Scotty and Precious into the basket against Philadelphia. They're going to do different things in different weird ways. I just want the same rhyme or reason for everybody. I just want it to be an even playing field and to be consistent. This is all Nick Nurse, Fred VanVleet, and other people in the league have been calling out for all year. Just keep it consistent. If you're going to call and allow certain levels of physicality at one end of the court, you better allow the other team to match it. Because if you're not doing that, it's a really insidious way of controlling the game to help one team. That if you're going to shackle one team with their arms around their back and let them just get beat in the face while the other team has their hands free and can do whatever they want, that's exactly what you're doing in the fight, in the court. As far as, like, if it's a real fight with two guys that are fighting each other, you might as well just hog tie somebody in their back and let the other guy just kick the shit out of him, is what you're doing, referees. When you call it at one end real tight and the other end, they get free reign to just go ahead and pummel the other team, stuff like that. So it's very, very, very wrong thing. Consistency is what we want. All right, we're just going to wrap it up real quick. An hour of Sunday special report, doing a little bit of a special ref report because of things I've been seeing in the last couple of days in the conference finals with superstar treatment by the referees. They get a carte blanche to act like an ass, to say what they want, to yell at the refs, to put the refs down, to insult them, to yell at them, and they don't get tossed from the game. How is this happening? Why is Draymond Green untouchable in that kind of respect? Whereas Gabe Vincent, he's breathes funny. All of a sudden, he's got a technical on him. That is what I'm talking about. We want consistency. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me this morning on Sunday. Tomorrow I'll be back with a Monday memory and 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I appreciate all y'all freaks. I hope you're enjoying your long weekend here in Canada. We got the day off again tomorrow. Woo, woo, woo. And as always, I say like, comment, subscribe. Please hit that red subscribe button. And let's go Raptors and get that next Larry O'Brien. Yeah.